Welcome back to the channel. As the festive period certainly ramps up, there isn't as much going on in the industry, but I'm still doing my very best to find some of your more interesting stories. Etihad Airways have launched a new exciting route, Qatar Airways are expanding into Australia, and there's news at Delta. Why not begin there? With the US carrier announcing it will increase flying to Brazil on a seasonal basis, with the resumption of daily service between New York JFK and Rio de Janeiro. Now, this flight launched operations on December 20th, but at the time of recording, that's still actually in the future. Bit of a weird one. If you're not aware, I do record these videos in advance, but there's your clarification that the flight will have already commenced, reconnecting two incredibly vibrant cities to meet the increasing levels of demand that are being seen and obviously are making this route necessary. Delta says that the aircraft will operate on this service until the 27th of March 2025, with the route formally underway just in time for the holidays. The 767-300ER has been selected. These planes are configured to seat 215 passengers and come equipped with Delta One. It's a spacious seating configuration. Moreover, moving down the cabin, Delta Premium Select has 18 wider seats, an additional recline than the main cabin. Next, Delta Comfort Plus has 21 with dedicated overhead bin space, and the carrier confirms that if you're really trying to elevate your experience but not sit at the front of the aircraft, well then you're definitely likely to want to purchase this seat over the main cabin. But if you want to head to that main cabin, there'll be 151 seats in a more standard economy class, making up the bulk of the seating, a true workhorse for the company and right around the world. It's a plane that Delta has relied on for decades and will continue doing so for a little while longer. Delta also describes the route resumption as crucial, considering both countries will now see enhanced connectivity. The launch ties in with the Southern Hemisphere summer season to ensure that people traveling for vacation in both directions can do so in the best manner possible. Partnership with the already established and gigantic LATAM allows Rio de Janeiro to connect further to important locations across South America. Moreover, Delta knows its new flights will ensure greater connections from the Big Apple, with existing flights to Sao Paulo too. Brazil remains an important focal point for Delta, and alongside LATAM, some 11,000 flights have already been operated together as part of this extensive partnership, with more than 2 million passengers carried. To conclude, if you're after your time specifics for the service, the flight will operate as DL2829, with a daily departure from New York JFK at 7:59 p.m. and an 8 a.m. arrival the following day into Brazil. Lastly, the service will depart Rio de Janeiro at 10:55 p.m. with a 7 a.m. next day arrival into New York JFK again as the return leg. On to the next story, and Qatar Airways has announced it will resume flights to Canberra, Australia in 2025. This marks the restoration of yet another critical gateway for the company. The capital city of Australia will become the 6th city to receive service from the Doha-based airline, which will act as a pivotal reactivation of a previously operated service. This service was operated before the global pandemic. However, it ultimately represented one of the many locations that saw service axed, as the company focused on prioritizing in-demand and profitable markets. Qatar Airways says that the flights will not be non-stop, but you can expect them to operate daily. The service will essentially operate on a triangular route, with the stopover to take place in Melbourne via Doha. Service will commence in December 2025, so we are still some time away, and the 777 will be operated across the route. Due to the high capacity, Q-Suite business class and high-speed Wi-Fi will be available thanks to Starlink, and in relation to the Boeing 777 operating the service, this is not confirmed as of yet. Given that service resumption is still a year away, Qatar Airways does actually note in their press release that this aircraft type being used is subject to change and will greatly depend on the demand present alongside how its network pans out in the next, say, 6 to 12 months to determine whether or not a 777 should be deployed on this market. Qatar says, though, it is delighted to be serving Canberra again, being the nation's capital and therefore the country's political heart. They say that many international airlines should serve this city. Frankly, they don't though, so Qatar is hoping to really represent a change for the better here. By the airline redeploying itself towards this location, it does expect to be able to serve healthy levels of business but also leisure demand, and moreover the flights will enable greater choice and connectivity for customers customers, aligning with the company's core focus. While there is a great deal of importance placed on connecting Doha and Canberra, it is ultimately bigger than that. What this allows for those in the Australian Capital Territory, or ACT, is to be able to jump on a Qatar Airways plane and fly all the way to London, Paris, Amsterdam, and so many more locations thanks to their extensive global network that will be on offer. It means those in Canberra now do not have to travel to Melbourne, Sydney, or Brisbane, even at times Perth, to facilitate their long-haul flying. Fundamentally as well, this service comes at a time where we've seen the launch of sales for Virgin Australia's new ones from Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth to Doha. These are thanks to Qatar Airways' new relationship and control of the carrier. While pending final regulatory approval, it will position Virgin Australia to compete again in the international travel market, which it has been missing since entering administration at the top of the decade and as the COVID pandemic emerged. Over to the final story, and that'll sit with Etihad Airways, who have officially launched new non-stop service to Nairobi in Kenya on Sunday, the 15th of December. The airline says that the flight, which originates from its home in Abu Dhabi, helps create a state-of-the-art service that focuses on two vital markets, the capital of the UAE and the dynamic city in Africa. Service will operate as EY767-768, with the departure occurring 4 times weekly on Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. You've got a 9:05 in the morning departure from Abu Dhabi and then a 1:30 p.m. arrival into Kenya. The return leg will operate as EY768 at 6:20 p.m. after spending close to 7 hours on the ground, arriving into Abu Dhabi 20 minutes after midnight at 12:20. Etihad continues to focus on developing its global network as it looks to move to double its fleet and overall cities served in the next 5 years, all aligning with those Journey 2030 ambitions. As a result, the launch of service to Nairobi is considered an essential pillar of continuing travel between the United Arab Emirates and Kenya, undoubtedly driven by what the Middle Eastern carrier described as a full inaugural flight. If we're looking at the tourism side of Kenya, well, they're hoping to have 3 million visitors clock through the country by the end of 2024. But what is the most important thing to gather from all of this is their focus moving forward. Kenya doesn't want to stop at 3 million, and they say they're hoping to reach 5 million people in the next few years. So as such, the growth trajectory for this country is high, and Etihad Airways will feel that they'll play an important role in facilitating this. That is going to conclude today's aviation news recap. Thanks a bunch for your support here on the channel. Please take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow for your next industry news, for your next video covering the industry.
And we'll fly.